I'd like to introduce Arni Ragvender. Arni Ragvender leads the Cloud and AI Innovation Team excuse me, at AWS, which is a multidisciplinary group of cloud and AI technologists dedicated to accelerating business outcomes using cloud and AI adoption. His team defines scalable adoption practices and best practices, helps customers through their transformation journey, and develops industry-specific and cross-sector use cases and benchmarks. Prior to AWS, Arni led a global team of technologists at Pivotal. He began his career at Bell Labs Research and has been a founder, engineering leader, product, and go-to-market leader. Today, Arni will discuss building with agents, tools and architectures for scalable impact. Welcome, Arni.
Thank you so much. Really happy to be here back at MIT. Been lucky to be collaborating with Bruce and Dr. Ahmed and a lot of members of the team. I know it's already almost 2 o'clock, but for all of us in the AI space, this is what we look like, right? It's just nonstop. And just not able to keep up. And I'm fortunate to have a job where my only job is AI, and I still struggle to keep up. I have a team that's globally, we work with customers, trying to understand where AI is, where is it headed, what kind of techniques are customers employing. I also work closely with Amazon, within Amazon's AI team, and how Amazon's using AI as well, and there's so much going on in this space. But the reality is, if you think about it, just last year alone, almost 112 large models were created. When I say large model, these are models that consume between 2 to 30 trillion words. And that's a lot of reading. While we all were sitting back watching Netflix, these machines are learning, right? And these models are both commercial and open source, which is pretty amazing. And it's not just the sheer number of models that are coming out. These models are getting smarter and smarter and smarter. Now, the word intelligence is very loaded, right? Not just forget the machines, even humans, right? Who's smarter and who's not? And Jan 2025 was a very unique time when one of the key benchmarks was the AI took over humans. Now, it looks very scary. I'm like, oh my God, machines are going to win. But the reality is, we are humans. We control everything. We just change the benchmark, right? So we'll see a lot of benchmarks being changed over the next several years. But that's a very seminal piece of information. The second thing, which is actually fronting a lot of what we're seeing in AI, is the length of these tasks that AI can perform is doubling every 7 months. It's being dubbed as the Moore's Law of AI, which basically means that AI was good for solving small problems. We'll speak about the trends in a second. But being able to solve longer tasks, which were usually reserved for humans, they're able to do it, right? And they're increasing that month over month over month. Every 7 months, that number is doubling. And the third one, which will be really important, is the price of AI is dropping. So again, assuming constant intelligence, this is using a different benchmark. The first one was GPQA, this one's using MMLU. But for average to advanced intelligence at 40 and 80 benchmarks, the cost has come down by 100 to 1,000x, which is pretty important as you think of scaling AI. I work for AWS, right? Yeah, we'd like to see those bills come in, but we want our customers to get real outcomes, right? So the prices have been dropping significantly. And these are all trends that really show us to where we were till very recently, and where are we headed. Just as a recap, right? So AI before 2022 was really good at predicting stuff, classic predictive AI. In 2023, AI became very assistive, chatbots being the foundational word. How many of you have gotten up and gone through 2 o'clock today and not spoken to an AI? Like, I'd be shocked if even one hand's up. It's okay if not, it's fine. But we almost always ask AI questions. 2025 is when AI is more than a Q&A. You can actually give it work. You can say, AI, not just a question, here's a task, perform it for me. And firmly the agentic, which is going to be the thrust of what we're going to talk about. And on the flip side, we don't know when it's going to happen, 2027, 2028, when AI will come and tell us what to do. It's the opposite of not just AI, we telling AI to do something, or the AI telling us something, right? So we'll focus on the green part today. But before we get to the green part, just a little bit of a backdrop, just so we are all anchored in the same thing. I'm not a manufacturing expert. You saw a lot of speakers, Dr. Ahmed and others who are deep in this space. But we work with a lot of customers. And predictive AI for the last 10, 15 years has really taken up a lot of momentum. But the goal really is, can you enable IoT in these machines, gather a lot of information, feed that information back either on the factory floor or send it into the cloud, look for trends, look for anomalies, and feed it back in saying, hey, that machine is likely to fail, or there's room for improvement in a specific process. So predictive maintenance and broader predictive usages and applications in manufacturing took off a lot, right? There's a lot of factories that have been enabled with this. The second thing that happened in the last 2 years is mostly assistive. You'll hear it if you've not heard it already from the Toyota team, wherein they're able to capture a lot of information, but unlike just the predictive thing, they found something and now they want to troubleshoot it before they rely on humans to do it exclusively. But we heard from the other speaker speak about the labor gap, where you don't have as many skilled people who can help you troubleshoot. But what if AI could come in and help you with it, right? So you have AI assistants who can come in and help you with that, right? So that's really been the wave so far. But going deeply into the collaborative era, what are we doing and what are we looking at? Before I go deeper into agents, almost anyone who's been in manufacturing probably knows who Deming is. And you've probably heard of the Deming cycle. And it's one of the pillars of process management, process improvement. But it all starts with you plan the process, you do something, you study it. Depending on how it goes, you adjust your process and go back all over again. It's a virtuous loop. Ideally, you get better and better and better. Now, why do I draw this? Well, Deming circle has got a lot to do with agents. If you think about what agents are, like the formal definitions, there are 20 definitions, but agents are autonomous systems that leverage AI to plan, act, reason on behalf of humans and for systems. You think about it. Most aspects, if not all the aspects of the Deming circle are baked in, where they're planning, they're acting, and once they act, they pause, understand what's happening, and then take another set of actions all over again. For most AI use cases, agents is a fancy word. We'll break down agent a little bit, but agents are nothing but a simple for loop. You just put an LLM or a large model inside a for loop, and you just go round and round and round till the problem is solved. That's the simplest agent. But let's break it down a little bit more. What are the main components of an agent? The reason why agents are in so vogue right now, there's a lot of agent washing happening, right, is these models have gotten so smart, right? And no matter which benchmark you look at, could be GPQA, could be MMLU, could be the Dow bench, all these benchmarks, these models have gotten really good. So that brain of the agent, the LLM, the LVM, the LWM, right, the foundation model, really, the better it gets, the more functional these agents get. It's not just the brain. The brain needs memory to be able to function, both for short term and long term. Agents need to do actions. If you remember from the Deming circle, they need to perform actions. And finally, these agents need to know what to do. They need to be given a persona. So if I break this down a little bit more, every agent not only has a brain, but it also has thinking capabilities baked into it. And there's many techniques you can start to think through. The simplest one is reflection. Sounds very fancy. Reflection is a for loop. That's all it is. Right? Now, there's a few more that are a lot more sophisticated: chain of thought, tree of thought, graph thoughts, React. All these are frameworks that are they're layers you put around the LLM so you can help them think better. Memory itself is, again, many types. You have short-term memory, long-term memory. Long-term memory itself is many types. You could do episodic memory, you could do semantic memory, you could do a variety of memory techniques. Actions, again, could be many types. You could have actions that speak to your systems, your data systems, your APIs. Could be pull up a browser, could do a web search, could be an intranet search, right? So these agents go out and perform all these actions. But the reason they do it is because, and the way they go about performing those actions is because you give every agent a specific role and instructions to go along with the role. The better the role definition, the better the instructions, the higher the likelihood of this agent completing an action. But you squint a little bit and you say, wait a minute, that looks like a human, right? We have a brain, we have memory, we have access to systems, we are given a role and persona and instructions when we join an organization, and that's the whole purpose, right? A big part of what these agents are meant to do is to do that. I thought Bruce's slide up front really captured the essence of what agents are trying to do, the 3 A's, which is augment, automate, and eventually accelerate, right? That's what agents are designed here to do. So with this as a mental model, and understanding that agents are really a manifestation, a systematic manifestation of the Deming circle, it's important to understand that agents don't operate in silos, right? Once you start deploying one, it's software. You can scale up and scale down. That's a distinction you have starting from humans to these AI agents. You can go from one agent, you can have millions deployed. And depending on the kind of problem you're solving, you can really go from a workforce that was just 2 people and overnight have a couple of million people work for you, finish a task, and come back all over again. Right? And that's why the next wave of startups that are coming out, they're starting to employ more and more of these agentic techniques to solve some of these problems. And keep in mind, while the initial wave of agents all look the same inside the organization, because of those 4 distinct parameters, by giving them a separate brain and giving a separate memory, separate tools and separate actions, you can disambiguate some of these as some as specialists, some as generalists, some as managers, some as supervisors. And now by being able to create these teams of agents, you can give them a lot more coarser tasks. Remember that Moore's law of AI, wherein you're able to now solve longer running problems. Historically, you just simply could not do this. You couldn't go in and say, hey, build me an app for task management. There was no way a system could do that. But now that request can be broken down. You can plan it. You can understand which systems to speak, perform the actions, go in a loop till it's completely happy with the nature of the application. Of course, there's always a human in the loop, right, where they're guiding and nudging the agents along the way, but the agents are doing a bulk of the work. So where do we see agents inside the enterprise? I'd say in the last year, interest in and outcomes from agents has gone up rather dramatically. We see it in 3 distinct places. Number 1, software development. I think the world of software development, the field of software development has completely changed, completely changed. This doesn't mean that computer science as a field is going away, but the way in which software is going to be thought through, built, run, and deployed is changing dramatically. So we'll speak about that in a second. Second, customer care. Imagine from the minute you bought a product that you had an agent assigned to you. You can't do that. I mean, you think about any company, there's no one to help you onboard. You got to read documentation, really painful. Then you stumble into some kind of a problem. You call them, you look for help, stumble, stumble, stumble. But what if you could have onboarding agents? What if you could have lifetime agents to help you run your, whatever product you bought in an easy way? So customer care is changing rather dramatically. And the third is broader knowledge work. Any work inside the organization that either humans were performing or you wished you had humans to perform. A big chunk of where agents are going to be used is not to replace us, but the 95% in the organizational work where you wanted to do something, there's an opportunity, but the cost of doing it is so high, it's just simply not worth it. But now with the lowering cost, right, if you remember the third chart, the lowering cost of AI, you can really now perform all those actions that you just simply could not do in the past, right, and unlock new opportunities inside the business. And we won't have time to go into all the detail today, given it's a 15, 20-minute talk. But software development is going through a very interesting phase, as I mentioned. On the left side, you'll see from the early 2000s to where we are. We went from the waterfall techniques to the agile techniques, right? Then you started with code completion, which is the green line. Then we started to see chat-based programming start to pick up. But the last year, or the last 6 months, if you've heard the word vibe coding, it's a fancy word, but in short, it's like being able to go back and forth with an AI, and not just an AI as a chatbot, but it now being able to produce large volumes of code and being able to deploy for you. Can you do it safely? Not yet. These models are not fully there yet. But there's a lot of people who are envisioning a future where there will be hundreds of agents running for every single software engineer out there, which is interesting because now every software engineer now becomes a manager. Now they're not managing humans, they're actually managing agents, which probably is much more fun than managing humans. But it's interesting to watch how the new team dynamic is going to shape up inside the organization. So we should keep this in mind as agent fleets start to get created. On the customer care side, now hopefully this will play. We did not get a chance to test this, but hear this conversation.
Hi, I need help tracking an order I placed last week.
I'd be happy to help. Let me pull up your order details and recent shipping updates. Could you please confirm your order number?
Sure, it's 783281.
Got it, thank you. I'll take a look. I see there's a recent update from our logistics partner that due to a weather delay, it's now scheduled to be out for delivery on Monday, March 20th.
Oh, but I won't be home on Monday.
No problem. Let me reschedule. Would Tuesday work for you?
Yes, that works.
Great. I've updated the delivery date for Tuesday, March 21st.
Thank you. Could you also send me an email with all the updated information?
Of course. I've just sent an email with revised delivery details. Please check your inbox.
Great. Appreciate the quick support.
You're welcome. I'm glad I could help and that you're happy with the quick support. If you have any more questions or need further assistance, feel free to ask. Have a wonderful day.
As a validation, the male voice is the AI. And the fact that you could have such a smooth and crisp conversation was just unheard of, right? And this is an AI system that's not just listening, contextually being able to call systems on the fly, extract that information. Now keep in mind, no ASR is being done on the fly, as in you're not doing ASR, like speech recognition, and then feeding it into the systems. You're inferring context live inside the conversation again. Being able to have those smooth conversations is pretty incredible. The third piece is knowledge work, right? We are seeing more and more customers create teams of agents, as we spoke about. This could be one teaming, where you have a factory supervisor, a process monitor, an energy optimizer, inventory. They're coming together, right? Very similar to the picture we spoke about. Or it could be in marketing or sales, wherein you come back and say, look, create me a full-blown marketing strategy document. So in this case, the supervisor listens to the request, knows the team that the supervisor manages. So in this case, I have access to a marketing person, a content creation person, a copy editor, and say, okay, if I got this request and I have access to these agents, what would the plan for that look like? Let me go create the plan, and let me go start executing this plan and farming out work to all these agents. So this is happening right now as we speak, right? We have quite a few teams that are actively building on something like this. And what would have taken days to produce a report, now, maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes, you have a completely finished report. We're seeing more and more examples like this, right? This is in life sciences, wherein you're bringing in a bunch of agents. This is another customer of ours that's leveraging our product Bedrock to be able to essentially stitch together a variety of these agents to solve hard problems, right? So this is Genentech, a life science company. And Dr. Ahmed showed another version of this where he had a series of agents in the design process, right? So one was doing the design, one was doing the finite element analysis. But being able to come together and bring these agents along with each of them having that brain, that memory, that persona, goes a long way towards unlocking some new capabilities. Now, of course, agents bring lots of opportunities, but they also bring lots of headaches. Now, traditional IT was not ready for this. It was actually, they were barely ready for the current setup to begin with, right? Now you bring in and say, hey, I'm going to convert our workforce, which is like 1,000 people, and we're going to have 1 million agents work, and they're all going to come and hit our IT systems, right? I mean, the CIO is like, what are you talking about? Just not happening, right? And every agent wants to be able to talk to every other system and extract information, just not sustainable. So there's been an emergence of a new protocol. I think Steve mentioned or alluded to this one. Model Context Protocol came from Anthropic. I've been working closely with them to streamline and ease some of this pain. So you don't have this Cartesian product or a much simpler way by which these systems can work with each other. So in short, Model Context Protocol being just one of them, we're seeing agents play a big role in software development, in customer care, and in knowledge work. We saw some examples along the way. But as we think through where we go, right, the next generation of the workforce is going to change rather dramatically. We'll have software engineers working with an agent. You'll have customer care people working with an agent. You'll have everyone inside the office work through an agent. How do we calibrate when you give an agent a work and it comes back? How do you trust the quality of that is good? How do you understand your role? What's the evolution of your role and the evolution of the agent's role? When decisions need to be made, and we've done a ton of research on this, when important decisions need to be made, yes, we keep saying human in the loop, but when does a human come in the loop? For every single decision or only at major points, right? When do you give agency to the agent, right? Truly in this case, when do you give agency to the actual employee? And where does decision authority sit? So there's a lot of socio-technical aspects that still need to be thought through. And I don't think we as humans are really ready, as agents enter the work. And it'll happen to us. Just like how, I'm not going to talk to an assistant. It's always going to hallucinate. Before you know it, you're spending 2 hours a day asking it questions you never thought you would. It happened to you already, right? Before you know it, right? So agents are going to be, doing the same thing in a very, very similar way. We started to think through, at least within the enterprise, how should we think of deploying some of these agents? First and foremost, as I mentioned before, a lot of agent washing. Always work backwards, right? At least within Amazon, we have this thing called working backwards. What are you trying to do? What's the business really trying to accomplish? Outside of saying we deployed agents and it's awesome to tell everybody, right? What's the business problem you're solving? Second is your data needs to be in the right place. If your data and the systems are not properly set up, then your agents are going to wreak havoc on your backend systems. It's going to be, think about garbage in, garbage out, but now exponentially. Lots of garbage in, lots of garbage out, right? So you don't want that. Third, I see a lot of customers coming in saying, oh, I'm going to deploy 8,000 agents of like 80 different types. It's like trying to stand up a brand new organization with like completely new employees. It's not going to work. Start with single agents, get them right before you move to multiple agents. Think security, think security, think security. Remember, these agents are performing potentially tasks on your behalf. So tomorrow, if you complete some decisions and regulators come back, compliance teams come back, you yourself come back and say, hey, what happened? Why did we do this? I'm like, oh, it has Steve's name all over it. I'm like, wait a minute. I didn't say that. Well, you did because you authorized an agent to go perform on your behalf. So agent identity and being able to run these agents in secure boxes becomes really important. So I see a lot of hunger from customers saying, I want to run towards it and do this, but not being able to do this is just simply not an option. And very similar to how there's a variety of models for different use cases, you want to use different models for different agentic use cases. So maybe the supervisor agent needs a different class of model versus some of the other agents that don't need as sophisticated model. Dr. Ahmed spoke about reasoning models. Maybe you want to use a reasoning model for the planning step and maybe a non-reasoning model for some of the other steps. Right? Think both multimodal and multimodal, wherein some models need text-to-text and some models need text-to-image, especially, for example, if you're in the vehicle design stage. MCP is powerful, very valuable. Do not put it in production right now. That thing is insecure, it's full of holes. It's going to get better in the next 3 months, 6 months. But be thoughtful when you deploy it. Experiment with it, but don't put it into production. And think through your business domains as you deploy these things. Because remember, if you work backwards properly, you'll have the right mapping of MCP to your backend systems, right? And finally, have a robust governance framework for your agents, all the way from security to when do you put human in the loop, how do you think about decisioning frameworks and decisioning authority, right? So it's pretty fascinating. Again, I don't know how long the green will last, but remember, the green did not wipe out the orange, did not wipe out the blue, right? We are building on top of each other. And I can't wait. I love my boss, but I can't wait for my manager to be an AI. Because that's what's going to happen when more and more tasks will be given to us, powered by AI, wherein you're like, hey, you wake up in the morning, it's done a bunch of work, and say, here are the 3 things you need to take care of, giving me control and giving me agency, right? So with that, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Happy to take any questions. Did I not scare everybody? Should be scared by now. Yeah.
Hey, Taylor Perlman from Capgemini. Thank you for the talk. I was curious why you drew the line of software development where you drew it, AI versus humans. So if I understood, you drew it as a couple of human developers controlling hundreds or thousands of AI, right? Why would it not just all be AI if AI is already doing 95 or 99% of the coding?
Yeah, I mean, it depends, right? At some point, you have to hope that we as a species will still run things. And a lot of this AI work is being done at our behest. So yes, you could deploy one agent to one human, or you could have one agent using hundreds of agents at different points in time, right? Ebbs and flows. But at the end of the day, you have a human that wants to accomplish a task and wants to do it really fast, powered by these agents, right? So that ratio of is it 1-to-1, 1-to-100 but there's a lot of tasks that historically would have needed a human to come in. So for example, let's say as a part of software development, you might be like, hey, I'm going to create the product requirements document. I'm going to go create a database. Let me go speak to a database administrator to do this. You probably don't need to do that for every single time. In fact, most of the times you probably don't, right? You could just rely on AI to do that, unless there's an advanced need or you want a human to come in and review that. So it all depends on the exact problem you're trying to solve. And that's why the socio-technical aspects are really important as we think through how many humans and how many AIs, how many agents will we need. Cool, thanks.
Thanks. I really liked your advice about starting with one agent as opposed to many.
Yeah.
But as you kind of grow that, I'm from a smaller company. How do you, or do you have any advice on like agent proliferation. So, using an agent from a third party for customer support, and then another one added to the tech stack for sending emails. Like, how do you manage all of those different third parties?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is the good news is there's no small company anymore. You can go from one person to a million employee person overnight, right? In fact, there's a race on right now within Silicon Valley on the other side where they want to create the 1% billion startup, right? Which is like one person creating the amazing startup. So I don't believe actually small is to your benefit. Now, some agents you will create by yourself that are your IP, that deeply understand your business, your process. But there'll be a lot of agents you'll want to bring in that are third party. But we do know that these agents are not packaged in a standardized way. They don't communicate fully in a standardized way. They don't communicate with third-party systems in a standardized way. So we'll be announcing, as an industry, I think we need to come together to have a consistent way by which we package these agents, consistent way by which we get these agents to speak with other systems. MCP is one of those. Agents to be able to speak with agents. Google announced an open standard called A2A. I don't know if we need another standard. Maybe we can just use MCP to be able to communicate rather than have multiple protocols. But my guess is in the next year, you'll see a lot more standardization come in. Just like how Docker came in, if you're from the IT world, to standardize application packaging. Very similarly, we'll see similar tactics come around or similar strategies come around to ease these. Hey, I have agents from 80 different places. How do I make them work? Reality is no different from humans, but we're a little bit more unified in our thinking. Cool?
Yeah.
Getting the hook.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Quick, a question? Could we take it outside for
Yeah,
a
I'm happy to
follow-up?
step outside.
Yeah, just in the interest of time.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Arnie.